My name is Gerry. I'm originally from Nova Scotia, but I now live in Toronto. I joined the Army in 1959 when I was 18 years old, and from Nova Scotia they sent me to Kingston, Ontario because I joined the Signal Corps, and I took my basic training in Kingston, and I took my trades training in Kingston. And basic training taught us to be an infantryman. Trades training taught me to be a teletype technician. Probably most people don't know what a teletype machine is today, but that's what I was trained in. I installed and repaired teletype equipment. And also cipher equipment, you know, the machines that you put the messages in, garble them up, and then send them so nobody can understand what you're sending. Well, at the time, 59, there was no student loans to go to university, and I really didn't want to stay in my hometown of Toronto, Nova Scotia. And my family did have a military background. My father was in the Army during the war, landed on D-Day, and I also was a cadet, an Army cadet. So it was a natural progression for me to go into the Army. I actually had taken all the training as a cadet. For example, when I was 15 years old, I went to Camp Aldershot, which used to be a big Army camp during the war, and trained in all the weapons, you know, how to take care of your uniform. Whereas other people who come in the Army were, well, a lot of them, their mother took care of them and they didn't know how to do anything. They couldn't do laundry, they couldn't press, so they had it hard, right? So for me, it was just a repeat of what I learned in cadets. Then I was posted to New Brunswick Signal Squadron, which was in Fredericton, New Brunswick, and near the big Army base of Gagetown. You've all heard of Gagetown, right? But because of my trade, most signal centers were located in cities or towns, right? So I was posted actually right, not to Gagetown, but to Fredericton. After I was there for a couple of years, I was sent to the Congo in 1961. When I first landed, I knew zero about Africa. I didn't know anything about Africa. And when we went, this was the second peacekeeping mission. The first one was in Egypt, and this was the second peacekeeping mission for the UN. And we were actually learning on the ground. We were told nothing about the country, not how to behave or anything. We're just sent to do the job. Congo is a very complicated mission. It had achieved its independence from Belgium in 1960, and there were 14 million people in population, and the Belgians didn't think they were going to leave, right? So people were not trained for anything. Out of a population of 14 million, they had about 6 university graduates and about 12 high school graduates. No doctors, no nurses, no engineers, no air controllers. It would be like handing Canada over to the primary school kids and telling them to run it. So of course everything came to a stop. So the head of the Congo at the time asked for the UN for help. And so the United Nations sent in a lot of military, but also a lot of civilians to help the population. The military was needed because there was a lot of people fighting to gain control, you know. And we were there primarily for communication. And the mission lasted for 4 years, from 61 to 64, and there were 420 Canadians served there, which is not a lot, but the whole mission was thousands of, there's 35 different countries there, so they're from Brazil to Norway, Pakistan, Ethiopia. There's all kinds of different troops there. So it was the first real international force, you know, to do anything. So it was very complicated. For example, the people giving the food, they had to follow people all different food for all different nationalities. It was like, it would get very complicated. So it was all learning on the job. The number one thing is to realize how lucky you were to live in Canada, because there were At that time, there's a lot of violence in the Congo, many refugees from different parts of the Congo, many people starved to death. It's very bad today even, actually, because I guess if there's nothing in a country that the West wants, they don't bother with it, they just let it go on, because there's been more people probably killed in the Congo since the independence than it's like a genocide. You know, millions of people have been killed and nobody seems to care, because I guess there's nothing there they want. Being a UN soldier in the Congo was actually quite difficult because nobody liked you. Because if you favored one side, the other side would hate you. If you favored this side, the other side would hate you. Because we tried to act neutral. We weren't favoring anybody. We were just helping who we could help and stuff like that. But that's not what people want. They want you to help them. They don't want you to help the other people, because the other people to them are bad. So we observe strict neutrality while we're there. And that's sometimes not a good position to be in. Plus, all the rules about, they told us we couldn't fire our weapons unless we were fired upon, which was kind of hard to digest, sort of thing. So, and we carried loaded weapons all the time, so. It was because it was always about. I mean, there was in the Congo mission. It was the most expensive in probably lives and money of any UN operation, even in Bosnia. We lost over 265 UN troops were killed in the Congo. Mostly Irish, Indian, Pakistani, Swedes, etc. Another thing I learned while I was there, that we were the best soldiers in the world from Canada, because many of them were just basically civilians in uniform. They had no training or anything. So one time we were coming around to report to the communication center, and the guard fired at us because he thought we were insurgents. So we stopped and said, "Oh, hold it now, you know." "Oh, okay." It's a good thing he wasn't a good shot, that's all. So, but funny enough, I was in the Congo for 2 years, and everywhere that I was, there was nothing going on. There was no combat, there was no violence, but it was everywhere else there was. For example, I was posted to a place called Elizabethville in the southern Congo, just after they had a war there, just after they had a big fight there, and it finally ended. And I was there for 6 months, nothing. And after almost a day after I was transferred out, they started fighting again. So there was fighting all the time. It just never happened where I was, which was very fortunate. One instance about combat is I was in Leopoldville, which is now called Kinshasa, and we all of a sudden started getting a message on a teletype machine saying, "We are under attack, we are under attack." And it was our signal unit in Kolwezi, I think it was, and they got caught in the middle of a firefight. 2 different groups were firing, and they were in the middle. And they finally sent troops in to relieve them and get them out of there. But when my friend, the operator, came back, he said he was on his knees typing like this because the bullets were going through the signal center. So, but that was really an attack. Eh? But they all survived. So we only lost 2 people in the Congo, and that was of natural causes. So we were very lucky as Canadians. And we had Signal Corps there. Plus, when we went out on, there was like, most of the unit was in Leopoldville, the capital. But we used to go out to what was called detachments out through the country, which was maybe a dozen signalers. And since we didn't have enough signal officers, we sometimes got an artillery officer, Bandu officer, whatever, you know. So also we had RCF there, Royal Canadian Air Force personnel there operating the airports. We spent a lot of money, a lot of lives, and really didn't accomplish very much. But because when we left a guy in control called Mobutu. And he turned out to be a very vicious, ruthless dictator, and he was there for over 30 years. And the West kept pouring money, giving him money, because he was anti-communist. This was when the Cold War was on between, Soviet Union and the West. And so they would pay big money to people just to stay aligned with the West. Didn't matter what they were like. Didn't matter what kind of dictator they were. They would just, do anything they could for them. When I left the Congo, I went home. I was posted to Dibert, just outside my hometown. And I stayed there for a couple of years, and then I was posted to Egypt, which was the first peacekeeping mission. And it was ongoing since 1956. And so I stayed in Egypt for a year, mostly in Gaza. But I did visit Lebanon and Israel, Jordan, and Egypt. I was doing the same thing as I was doing in Congo, supplying communications to the force. Now, in Egypt was a different story. In Egypt, there was only 7 countries involved. It was the first peacekeeping mission. The first commander was General Elam Burns from Canada. He was the first UN mission commander in Egypt. And but there was a lot of other Canadians in the force there, and they had. I think the Royal Canadian Dragoons and other tank regiments were patrolling the border. We were patrolling the border on one side, and the Israelis would be on the other side. They were just patrolling the border to make sure nothing broke out. So we did border patrol as well as the signals, and also we had the Canadian Air Force was there transporting goods and people around, stuff like that. And at that time, we had a lot of Canadian equipment. Like we were using Canadian planes like. Caribou, the Caribou, short takeoff and landing. It was a big transport plane, but it could take off in a field almost like a football field. It didn't need hardly any to land. It would land like that and take off the same way. So it was good for there. And it was designed and built in Canada. Well, when I came home, I went on 90 days leave, 3 months vacation, because I had not taken any vacation in 2 years. So I had sort of accumulated different leave. So I went on vacation for 90 days, and anybody I talked to, they never even heard of the Congo. They never even heard of it. So it was not well known then, and it isn't even well known now, the Congo operation. So it wasn't like people coming home from World War II, or well, even the Korean vets when they came home. Nobody knew what they did in Korea. So, but that's not what I was looking for. I wasn't looking for appreciation like that. I was just doing my job. There's no skill that can prevent you from being killed in war. There just isn't any skill. You're just lucky if you don't get killed or hurt. That's it. So, and they know that. They know, and a lot of soldiers feel guilty coming back from the war, and they have comrades who've died and are buried, and they say, "Well, why wasn't it me? Why did it have to be him?" So they feel guilty because they shouldn't, because it's not their fault, but they do. So that's a soldier's curse, I guess. We got to remember our history. We have to teach our history. You have to understand our history, because we've done a lot of great things, this country has, and it's not appreciated. Many people today don't appreciate what the people that came before them. They're living the good life they are now because of the people that came before them, and they should know that and appreciate that, and use them as a role model.